Both candidates have pride in your accomplishments. An old saying is, pride is a paradox, making some fools yet keeping others from being so. Which are you?
Well, I guess that would depend on who you're talking to. Everybody has an opinion. I think accomplishments are something that you use as a learning experience. You look forward to that. And you can talk to the councilman when we're bringing something forward, waste treatment plant, river front. And I do a lot of the legwork that I bring to the council. I know no one man does anything, but there's always got to be a captain of the ship to make the leadership work. I think if you ask the city employees, they're pretty satisfied with the way things have went under this administration. We've accumulated no debt. We've paid off debt. We've not raised taxes. We've done a new sewer plant. We've done a riverfront. You know, it goes on and on. I've done over $25 million in my administration grant work, and I would challenge any other city this size compared to that. So I think, I guess, I don't know. It depends on the person that asked the question, which one of them they think I am. But, you know, you get nothing accomplished by yourself. As I said, with the RFCDC, we work very closely. We wouldn't have a lot of those things accomplished if it wasn't for them. The same way with the aldermen. We just did the Facebook. We had a new alderman. He said we need to let people know quicker. So I appointed a committee there. The canal. Alderman Schumann was interested in that. I appointed him chairman of that. So, you know, I think we need to utilize our people. When we did our comprehensive plan, we brought everybody in from all sectors, whether it be schools, education, township. I had someone from private business, realtors, factory. We had them all. We did that comprehensive plan because we're the people that live here. We know what we want to see in the future. We could have done like other communities and spent $60,000, $70,000, brought someone in to do it. We have to not to do that. It's our city. We want input. We want to do what people want. We ended up with a $10,000 bill on that. I was very pleased with that because we couldn't have paid $60,000 or $70,000 to get that done. I think we got a better plan. So I'll let Bill make his comments.
Could I ask you to ask the question again? Please.
I wanted to do that too.
Both candidates have pride in their accomplishments. An old saying is, pride is a paradox, making some fools, yet keeping others from being so. Which are you?
Glad I get the answer to this and my wife doesn't. Well, I am very, very proud of my accomplishments, and but in regards to the position which we're sitting here talking about tonight, one of my favorite authors is Abraham Lincoln, not to change the parallel that we're looking at here. But one of the things that made Abraham Lincoln so successful was he utilized that paradox. He surrounded himself with not only those people who believed in his methodologies, but he surrounded himself with the people who were totally against him, brought them to the same table, discussed the issues, and came up with a resolve which we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if it hadn't happened. In regards to municipal government, I think it's the same type of thing. I don't think I'm a fool. I think that citizen involvement is most important in any governmental process. Government of the people that involves the people produces the best end result, and I think one of the things that we need to do a better job of, at least from my 10 years of observance here, is to have a citizens advisory committee to run ideas by, because although we are the elected officials, if we're in the position of the mayor or the alderman, you know, just because we get elected by the people, that doesn't mean we shut off the communications to them. They should still have input on projects that come about and how we're going to go forward. And while we try to do that on many things, we don't do a really good job of it, at least from my perspective, and that is something that I'd like to see changed. But all in all, I think you surround yourself with quality people and those that are, you in favor of things you're in favor of and people who are totally against you so that you get the best result for the citizens.
Somehow I thought I was back in high school because when Mr. Mulvaney was teaching, he would ask some of the most provocative assignments. And I thought we were back in high school again. Very provocative question. Thank you from the audience.
I too have a question from the audience. This goes back to tourism and the Visitors Bureau. What would you do to improve the Visitors Bureau? And do we need to keep taxing when they sit on a significant amount of funds?
Well, as most people historically may or may not be aware, under state statute, the city of Rock Falls, like many other non-home rule communities and home rule communities as well in the legislature, have the ability to form what is called hotel motel tax, and it's a 5% tax that's charged against people's rates, or excuse me, stays in local hotels for 3 days or less. And I think we bring in about $179,000 to about $180,000 a year, which for a community of our size with 1, 2, 3 hotels is a pretty good sum of money. Several years ago, under Dave's administration, the hotel motel tax was basically turned over to the city. Collects it because it is a tax, and that is our responsibility. And a convention and tourism bureau was formed, which has its offices right in our north wing of the building here. And in fact, they paid for the renovation of that building where their office is set and pay utilities and things like that to be here. They have a director, and she's getting ready to leave, and they're advertising for a new director. And much to my surprise, they're also advertising for another person to come in there 20 hours a week. Not to say that they don't do things to promote tourism here, but I think for the amount of money that they're setting on, they could still do a tremendous amount of things to put Rock Falls out there to the forefront of tourism, and they do work on that with Black Hawk Hills and many other tourism agencies. And I think that members of their board go into Rosemont yearly conferences and other places to interact with people that would be coming to this area, because many of you may not know, but tourism has rapidly become and has become one of the most revenue-producing things there is in the state of Illinois. So we need to keep tourism in the forefront, but if we can utilize some of those monies to do some other things that help bring people in for that tourism, I think that would be a good thing as well. So maybe revamping it, revamping the offices and how it currently works.
Well, as far as tourism monies that are there, we can go back in history on that one too. When I was in office many years ago, Chamber of Commerce funded that with about $1,000 a year, and that's all they had. Back then we had problems with the city too. I was looking at ways to generate more money for the city. We put that tax in. That tax is by statute would only be used for certain things. You can't just put it in your general fund and use it for what you want. I can tell you a fact, and Jack can contest to this, how much tourism has helped with the development of the riverfront. They're also being a little bit generous right now, from my understanding. Yes, if you remember the fly-in we had 2 years ago, and we brought 10,000 people plus into the city. They worked with that and funded a lot of that. Ronald Reagan's 100th birthday, the big activities that went on there. Our tourism director made the brochure, the little passport that was handed out, designed it, printed it, paid for it, and helped distribute that, and worked very hard on those Reagan days. One of the things that people have to understand is, in Rock Falls, we have a canal and we have a few draws. But if you open that draw up, you have Ronald Reagan's birthplace in Tampico. You have Ronald Reagan's home. You have a windmill in Fulton. They expand beyond this area, and they promote the area. They just did a thing on probably kind of wrong, WLS I think it was, where they did commercials. This is why they're getting another person to help, so they can get out more and do other things. They promote things in Sterling as well. So I think if you understand what the position is, And we have a councilman on the board. So the city council can get the reports. The door's always open. Anytime anyone wants to go in there and ask what's going on or what they're doing, they're more than happy to tell you. So I think, again, certain funds are for certain things. And they do have some money built up, but you know, if they didn't have money built up when things come along, they couldn't help. And the decision is made by that board. And a lot of the way they run the tourism over there is by state statute. So, does that answer your question?
This question is for both candidates. What is the single most challenging issue Rock Falls faces now, and why are you best equipped to handle it?
Well, that's two different questions. First question is easy for me to answer. We don't have property available. That's the bottom line. You know, everybody keeps telling me, well, we need to bring this in, we need to bring that in, we need to bring industry in. I would challenge anyone to tell me where we're going to put a Target or something of that nature in Rock Falls right now. Now, everyone's going to say south of town. It'd be great, wouldn't it? If you could get the owner to sell the property, if you can get them to be reasonable with the property. As far as factories and industries, I'd like to have a little quiz quest out here, how many industries we actually have in Rock Falls. You know, we have a lot of factories in Rock Falls. I think the thing is, when you look at the big one, and I'll always say this, and I'll always live by this, Northwestern Steel and Wire was a wonderful thing. National Manufacturing, Lawrence Brothers, they're gone. And when they left, what were we left with? Well, metal spinners never laid anyone off in 30 years. When you look at the smaller factories, they don't lay off. I would rather have 10 small factories than one large factory. We work in economic development every day trying to bring things to the area. And again, working with the other communities. I'm on the enterprise zone. I've been on there for 18 years. I've chaired it for 2 years. I always hear that we need to cooperate more. Well, we do. You know, we have I-88 corridor where Rock Falls, Sterling, Morrison, and Dixon all fund things together and work together to try to bring things in the area. Now, the factory just went to Dixon, for example. Why did they go to Dixon instead of Rock Falls? Because there was a 100,000 square foot building there with overhead cranes already there. That's the challenge we have. Another industry went to Sterling. If we were willing to build a $2 or $3 million building for them, give them a 5-year lease on it, we could do some of those things. I don't think the taxpayers of Rock Falls want to do things like that. I mean, you know, you got to have a little skin in the game. And that's kind of the way that I see it. You know, when I was in business, I did it the same way. And I think being in business for 30 years gives me an advantage of knowing how to operate a business. I didn't have just a small business. I had multiple locations throughout Northern Illinois. And you know, I had to deal in other communities. With our business, we had to deal with a lot of different communities with building codes and things of that nature. So, you know, it's not always easy.
Well, David and I will agree to disagree, which probably makes this interesting for most everybody. He mentioned that the property is south of Rock Falls, and he's absolutely correct. And he's also absolutely correct when he makes the statement that, you know, a lot of times when businesses come into this area, it would be great if the city of Rock Falls had ownership of properties, because it does make it a lot easier when you can turn right around and sit down with the developer and say we have 100 acres or 75 acres or whatever. We have vacant spaces on our industrial park on the east side. For those of you that know where the new sewer plant is, we are working on an industrial park west because there's going to be acreage out there that's going to be available as well. And those areas, I think in time we will see people come in there. Is the possibility of Rock Falls getting a huge industry moving into the city in the very near future? Personally, I don't think so. Would I like to see that? Absolutely, because there's still a lot of people that are out of jobs and it would be an opportunity. But the jobs that come into Rock Falls or Sterling, really like the mill used to in its heyday, they benefit everybody because it's not just Rock Falls people that work there, it's people from the surrounding Whiteside County area and other areas that work there as well. That area to the south though, you know, I think that we need to become more aggressive with the property owners. I think we need to have sit-down talks with them and say, you know, there are opportunities, because I'm sure Dave would allude to without giving away many secret facts, but we have had people in here looking to build. And it is an advantage to have those properties. And so if it is an advantage, what more can we do aggressively to work with those property owners to secure that property or get them on our page so that when we get to that point, we have the opportunity to do that. I know the folks up at the RFCDC, and to give them a shout out as well, they do a tremendous job. And a lot of times I've heard from people going around the community, you guys pay them all this money every year, and what have we seen in return? The business of economic development is one that is mind-boggling, because just when you think you've got somebody to sign on the dotted line to bring something magnificent to the community, the next morning you can get an email or a fax that says, we're sorry, we're going to somewhere else. So all your hard work for months or years in advance go out the window. And then people will say, what have you done for us? When in fact they've done a tremendous job, but the businesses just chose to go elsewhere. But I think we need to take an aggressive stance and try to work on that, to get that properties out there available so that when these businesses do come in, we either own the properties or we get with the property owners, and we have a better rapport and relationship with them. The property where the current dilapidated asphalt production plant sits, which is a great welcome to City of Rock Falls, where the property that's located on the south side of the road there, on Mr. Holloman's property. Those are some areas that I think we really need to work on harder.
Currently, the city of Rock Falls shares some fire person with the city of Sterling. What, if any, more merging between the two cities should be done in regards to public service or any of the services that are provided to Sterling and Rock Falls residents, such as fire, police?
Well, as everyone knows, the fire has been probably the one thing that's been out there in the media and with the public and what's going on there. And I think that there's a great plan in place with cooperative effort between Sterling and Rock Falls right now that when our chief over here decides to retire, he has 37 years of service to this community, and when he decides to retire, I think that we'll move forward with the plans that are in place, by which we'll have one fire chief, we'll have a deputy chief and a training officer, and then the captains that are currently in place on both departments will fill their roles. And what does that do? Well, Sterling doesn't have to pay for a chief, we don't have to pay for a chief, we share the cost. We both don't need deputy chiefs, we share the cost. And that leads to other things hopefully down the road, because collectively, I don't think, I mentioned this the other night at the Sauk Valley get-together, I don't think the citizens of the towns or of the rural fire protection districts realize just how fortunate we are to have a joint response like we currently do. All departments have what they call mutual aid. You can call your neighbors when you have a fire, but the Sterling and Rock Falls Fire Departments operate under a mutual response out of a central dispatch, which is TwinCom at CGH Medical Center. Both of our fire departments, the 911 calls for fire to go there. And there's a simultaneous dispatch. So if the fire is in Sterling, Rock Falls, or the rural areas, both of our departments go at once. Well, what benefit is this? If your house is on fire or your farm is on fire, it's great to have those apparatus and more firefighters there immediately, besides the mutual aid programs that are still also in place. The ISO ratings for property, if you're a homeowner, that goes down based on the ISO rating, and by both of our departments responding together, that's lowered the ISO rating on properties for insurance consideration. As far as other things besides the fire, in my campaigning, I'm saying it's unlimited. We have to sit down with our sister city. We can't be afraid to bridge the gap, to talk about what other services, what other equipment, whatever we can do together to work together. We have to get past the historical identity loss. Sterling doesn't want Rock Falls, in my opinion. Rock Falls doesn't want Sterling. I think that if we sit down, there's no reason that there's not perhaps some other issues. Can I tell you what those are right now? No.